It was just so dark last night. The nights are so long. I need to do something to help me out so I can see in the early morning hours when I'm getting ready to go hunting and stuff like that. I'm trying to make my tools at night. I don't have enough time to gather everything and do all my work in the daytime. I got to do most of my work at night. So I've got these two torches right here. These reusable torches. See, they got the collars on them. This one's a 2-stick torch. So you got the collar right there and 2 sticks, a little bracket fungus. And for me to be able to burn these, I got to have pine sap. And I can't find enough from them, just seepage. So I've got to go tap a tree. Well, there's plenty of pine trees out here in this woods, but none of them have any injuries, and they're all pretty tall trees. So if I'm going to get pine sap from these, I'm going to have to score into the bark and tap the trees. And the best way to do that, take your hatchet, or something like that. And you just chop the bark off. You just chop the bark off like that. All you want to do is score into the sapwood. Score into the sapwood, and then I'm going to go ahead and hang my bucket on here. And by tomorrow afternoon I should have about half a pint of pine sap. Okay, I'm over here at the other tree. And this one I did yesterday. And as you can see, the slot I made is about 16 inches long. The stripe that I made on the tree, and I cut it angled that way and cut it at an angle that way so that the sap funnels to the center and runs right down in the bucket. And just overnight, you can see I've got about half a pint of sap in there, about half a pint, and it still looks like it's wanting to run. We still got sap running out of there, so I might leave that one for another day. They seal up within 48 hours of opening them up, and if you want to leave them longer than that, you got to chop them. There's half a pint of pine sap right there. And I'm going to be using a gallon of pine sap every 2 or 3 days, so tapping trees is pretty much a must for me. And it's this one bucket, this bucket that gave me half a pint. To get that gallon every 2 or 3 days, I'm going to have to tap about 4 trees, and I can't keep using them over and over, so I'll have to use these trees, and once I've used them up as much as I can, I'll have to go find other trees. But that's the best way I can think of to run my campsite is by burning pine sap. And when it's as abundant as it is here in the state of Florida, every tree is a pine tree almost, I'm not going to have a problem getting that, and that's the best possible fuel that I can use for right now. So let's go find some more pine sap. Okay, I had a good day today. Found this giant mound of pine sap chunks off of that pine tree, a great big old seep. Look at that stuff, looks just like butter. This pile here is probably a pint and a half of dried pine sap. This here will burn me for a couple days. I can only use this for stove fuel though. We just got bark in it and it's got chunks in it. And, I could melt it, but the bark would absorb a lot of the fluid, and it wouldn't really help me any. I'm going to save the liquid pine sap that I'm tapping the tree to get to burn on my torches, and I also use that for making tools out of. This I can burn like stove wood to cook over top of, and that's what I'm going to use this for. Let's discuss pine resin mixtures for a moment. This here is just tempered pitch, just black pitch. It's just been boiled and all the turpentine has been removed from it. It doesn't have any charcoal or anything like that in it. And I use this for making my tools. It has to be melted before you can use it. And this here is beeswax, pine pitch, and honey. And I use that to make gum out of. And you talk about some good chewing gum. I'm going to try that out. That's really good. Just beeswax, the clearest pine sap you can get, and honey. And for a material that's very much like concrete, you can take pine sap, ground bone dust or bone shavings. I get those from drilling holes in bones and stuff, and scraping them, and sand. And you just melt the pine sap. You mix the ingredients together, and when it cools off, it becomes extremely hard like concrete. And that material has a lot of good uses. I've even made sinkers for my fishing pole out of that stuff. And for a weatherproofing, for sealing up boats and buckets and stuff like that, you use pine sap, shredded rope bark or grass, and charcoal. And you grind the charcoal, and this should be as fine and fluffy as you can. You melt the pine sap and mix it up, and immediately stick it into whatever hole you want to seal up, and it makes a really, really good water seal. So those are a few of the basic traditional mixtures for pine sap for making sealants and chewing gum and tool making and other things. You just dip into the bucket and you just coat it with pine sap like that. And you don't want to get too much of the fresh sap on there because it thins out and it'll all run off. So you got to feed it a little bit at a time. You just put it under just like that. Alright, I'm just going to go ahead and light this before it gets dark. Yeah, you can see it just burns like gasoline. And when you need a dependable light at night, this is one of the best things you can get. And you got to add to it though. You can't just, if you're planning on burning it for a long time, you can't just coat it one time and burn it. You got to add to it a little bit, and you got to be a little careful with them. But that makes a real good torch. To add to them, what you do is you just dunk your stick into the liquid sap and you just let it pour on there like that. Let it pour on there just like syrup. See? Just like that. I can keep this torch burning for hours like that. Of course, you want to obey all the rules with these. You don't want to burn them inside of a tent. Don't burn them amongst thick, dry brush where you could start a forest fire. You'd want to use these the same as you would gasoline or propane. This is a powerful fuel, and you should respect it like you would any of those fuels. Pine sap is one of the most convenient things in the woods to use, and if you respect it, it can do a lot of jobs for you. I'm Jack Survival. Thank you for watching.